Hello and welcome back for the continuation of the topic on Kashmir. So today we will start by looking into the history of Kashmir. We will not go very like we will not go in very details, but it will be just a bird's eye view. But that is essential, and we will do it in a chronological manner. And in history, right? Chronology's knowledge is very helpful in understanding the development of events. So if the chronology is clear to us, then we won't miss many important things. So roughly speaking, we can start from something which we referred to in our last class, that is the time of around 1148 to 1150. That is when the first document on the history of Kashmir was written. By whom? By Kalhan. Kalhan, and his document was known as Raja Tarangini. So this is how the literal history of Kashmir starts. Raja Tarangini, River of Kings, or a chronology of kings. You should always keep in mind that Kashmir, and for that matter, for that whole area, the whole region has been governed not only by Hindus in past. There were Muslim rulers as well as Sikh rulers. Sikh, especially during the time of Ranjit Singh, when he commanded the vast terrains of Punjab, that is inclusive of the plains of Punjab that is presently in Pakistan. So under Ranjit Singh, this whole area was under the control of the Sikhs. So, and this is a period which is relevant for us, which is of significance for us, because after his death, the control of the Sikhs became weak. And by 1846, that is when East India Company stepped in the administration of Jammu and Kashmir, not directly. Mind you, as I referred to in the last class, Jammu and Kashmir was one among the 565 princely states that were to be integrated into India post-independence. So prior to independence, they enjoyed indirect British rule. So 1846 is when it started through the Treaty of Amritsar. What happened in this treaty? The British East India Company and the Raja of Jammu, he was Gulab Singh. He is an ancestor of Hari Singh, who we know in history as the leader or the king when the instrument of accession was signed. Later, his son, who was very active in politics, in fact, is still there, Karam Singh. So that lineage has been carried forward through since 1846. So 1846 is an important period. Why? Because this marked the intervention of East India Company in the affairs of Jammu and Kashmir. So under this, through this treaty, Jammu and Kashmir became a protectorate or vassal, and the British East India Company became the suzerain, or suzerainty of British East India Company was established. Now, certain political terms like, say, who is a suzerain? What is a sovereign? What is paramountcy? This sort of terms pop up every now and then in our historical debate. So we should be very clear. So when there is limited internal freedom, if your independence, if you are technically independent, but in reality your self-rule is very limited, then that is called a situation of vassalage or protectorate. So in that scenario, East India Company did not give full self-rule to these provinces or to these princely states. What were they? The relation was internally they could manage their affairs, but in terms of their foreign policy, in terms of defense, the East India Company enjoyed paramountcy. That means they were the preeminent power. And that is why East India Company, or that power which enjoys the supreme authority over certain subordinate power, they are known as suzerain. So when you get the term suzerainty means there are two political units and one unit is kind of subordinate to the other unit, because although it may enjoy certain degree of self-rule, like in case of the princely states, they enjoy certain degree of self-rule, but yet the British East India Company enjoyed suzerainty over these princely states. This particular fact was very well depicted in the movie Lagan. If you have seen the movie Lagan, there was this scene when uh, the prince or the king of that area, he appeared to be kind of having his own area of dominance, but still in presence of the Britishers, his limited power was under full public view, or everybody could perceive that his role was limited by the presence of the British. So that was the scenario of the relation of princely states with the British power. So similarly, Kashmir developed such a relation with the British East India Company. So under the sequence of event, so 1846, Treaty of Amritsar, Kashmir or British East India Company became the suzerain power over Jammu and Kashmir. And in this sequence of events, later in the year 1925, Hari Singh took over. Okay, Hari Singh took over. Now, cutting to 15th August 1947, what happened? What happened on 15th August 1947? Through the Independence of India Act, the British rule in India ended. And how was the relationship between the British and the erstwhile princely states got changed? Technically speaking, what happened was that the British paramountcy over these princely states ended. It meant that, be mindful of the fact that even in the times of British, these princely states enjoyed in relative degree of independence in their internal affairs. So in a way, when British rule ended, their control over, it was assumed by some that their control over external affairs also is brought back to them. But actually, for a long period, say in case of Jammu and Kashmir, since 1846, they had not enjoyed a power. So now claiming something which you have not enjoyed is kind of an anomaly. So this was corrected by the Iron Man of India, Sardar Patel. He was the chief architect who integrated all the princely states. Otherwise, you just imagine there was high probability of balkanization of India, considering the huge number of princely states that existed at that time. So 15th August 1947, British paramountcy lapsed at the stroke of midnight. That means at the stroke of midnight on 15th August 1947, when the partition plan was executed under Independence of India Act, all the princely states technically became free. But again, as I had just now referred to, the role of Sardar Patel was very significant in ensuring that the integration of vast majority of states to the Indian Republic was made possible. But states such as Junagadh, states such as Hyderabad, and states such as Jammu and Kashmir became a problem area. So what happened in Jammu and Kashmir? Hari Singh, remember the method through which Sardar Patel tried to integrate these erstwhile princely states into the Republic of India was something called instrument of accession. It was kind of a agreement between the government of India and the princely states, so that the rulers would enjoy a degree of privilege while their kingdom will be fully integrated into the Republic of India. But Hari Singh refused to sign the instrument of accession initially. What did he do? He actually offered standstill agreement to both India and Pakistan. Actually, he had this, you can say, fantasy, because it is not, it could not have been reality. He felt that he could stay independent, which is actually, it was impossible. Either he had to go to Pakistan or stay with India. So remaining independent, although it was in theory, it was one of the options, but in practicality, it was never an option. It was a matter of fantasy. If any princely state assumed that they would be staying independent, it was not possible. So considering such a fantasy, actually to sustain their privileges, they had the assumption, they had certain assumptions of past glory, and so they proposed, Hari Singh proposed a standstill agreement with both India and Pakistan signed this agreement. But India refused to do so. India said that no, it will not be, we are not agreeable to such an arrangement. Although Pakistan signed, but on 22nd of October 1947, Pakistan invaded Kashmir. And it was a period of great plunder and loot. And there was gross violations of Kashmiris by Pashtuns, Pathans, and Pakistani irregulars and regular soldiers in civilian clothes who came and wreaked havoc in the region. At first, the troops of the king, he tried to resist the forces, but obviously he was ran over by the Pakistani intruders, and so he fled to Jammu. From Srinagar, he fled to Jammu on 26th October 1947. The king, Hari Singh, he fled to Jammu from Srinagar, where he signed the instrument of accession with India, and that resulted in India sending troops, airlifting troops, and the troops fought with Kashmiris, and they were able to drive back the intruders beyond a particular area. And after that, ceasefire happened, and that ceasefire line is what we know as this one. I'll show you. This is the ceasefire, the line of control, the LOC. So we were able to push the Pakistanis back to this point. They retained this area. So right now we say this is the illegal occupation of Kashmir by Pakistan on 1947. So that is the scenario on ground as on 26 October 1947. Hari Singh signed the agreement of instrument of accession, and Indian troops went there and freed the Kashmiris from the Pakistani intruders. But this instrument of accession was had certain exceptions. In fact, what it said that the agreement with the government of India was that other than the subjects of defense, foreign affairs, and communication, Kashmir would be free on all other matters. It will not be bound by the dictates or by the governance of India or governance of Delhi. It will be bounded only on the three affairs of foreign affairs, defense, and communication. So it was not a you can say full-scale or complete integration of Kashmir or complete acceptance of India's territorial jurisdiction over the plain or that area of Kashmir. They accepted the territorial jurisdiction to an extent, and whereas on subject matter jurisdiction, they say that except the subjects of foreign affairs, communication, and defense, Kashmir will have the freedom to rule on their own. So India accepted it initially. Government of India accepted it, and that is how the instrument of accession was signed, and that is how Kashmir uh, became a state of India. So another very significant event happened in this time when the Pakistanis attacked India on 26th October 1947. So the war went on. War went on till 19. Actually, ceasefire was signed only in 1949. Ceasefire could actually materialize. So be mindful of the fact that by 1945, the institution of United Nations was established, and its purported goal was to establish world peace. So, with the high hopes and Nehru being an internationalist who took great interest on world affairs, and it is said by many scholars that Mountbatten, the Governor General of India at that time, actually urged Nehru to take the matter, and it has actually it is accepted that it was one of the historical blunders of Nehru that he took the matter of Kashmir on 1/1/1948 to United Nations Security Council, and that is how the Kashmir issue became internationalized. So once it went to UN affairs, the role of the respective states was limited. And globally, the Western forces portrayed the Kashmir issue as a bilateral issue or a disputed area between India and Pakistan. Whereas, in truth, it is an internal affair of India. There has been disturbances from Pakistan, but it is an internal issue which is disturbed by Pakistan. Pakistan is the aggressor. So that is how it should have been perceived, that India's territorial integrity has been violated, and that is how the international community should have asked Pakistan to move back. But no, now after ceasefire agreement was or ceasefire became materialized, a legitimate territory of India, that part of Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan area, and this on and western side of Pir Panjal range, this area was taken over by Pakistan, and the whole area was termed as a disputed area. So that is, again, it is considered as a historic blunder of Nehru. And if you are asked, do you think that it was wrong on the part of India to take the matter to the UN Security Council? Then, as per present scholarship or as per present knowledge, you can say that yes, maybe we had false hopes on United Nations, and right now also we are seeing the limited role of United Nations in preventing an ongoing conflict like what is happening in Ukraine. So at that time also, it was very much a place for big power rivalries. The Cold War was very much active. So big powers always act in their interest. So they will not do something only because it is right. They will do something only if it is in their interest. So India had actually false hopes that uh, India had false idealistic hopes that United Nations will do something that is right. But US had other interests. US felt that Pakistan can be a potential ally, and it turned out to be a very useful ally for it in Cold War. In 50s, in fact, Pakistan was in partnership with the US on various uh, multilateral forums like CENTO, Middle Eastern Alliance. It is considered as a major non-NATO ally. So it was a wrong assumption on part of India to hope that Western powers will judge the matter on a very logical and keeping justice at the forefront. It would not act. They will always act in their self-interest. So it was a historic blunder. But keeping that aside, other developments in that time period was like on 5 March 1948, Maharaja Hari Singh announced the formation of an interim popular government. That means it was elected government. Led by whom? Led by Sheikh Abdullah. Sheikh Abdullah was the PM. That time the premier was, or the chief minister was considered called the PM. PM of Jammu and Kashmir. So it was formed Sheikh Abdullah, so grandfather of Omar Abdullah, Farooq Abdullah's father. So 1951, the State Constituent Assembly was elected. Because as I have referred to you before, Jammu and Kashmir had its own flag, had its own constitution. So State Constituent Assembly was elected. So it was elected Constituent Assembly. So there was election, and then it was on 6th February, this Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly actually ratified. What did he ratify? It ratified the accession of the state to Union of India. So it should actually be take everything beyond doubt. Legally speaking, as defined under Article 1, Jammu and Kashmir is a state. Right now it is a union territory, but it's a territory of India, and it has been rightly acknowledged by the popular Constituent Assembly. So that way, our legitimate, it is a legitimate territory of India. So all those legal challenges created by Pakistan in international forums are actually just nuisance. Then, on 26th of January 1957, Jammu and Kashmir's constitution came into force, and the Constituent Assembly was dissolved. And in this constitution, specifically, there was section 3, which says specifically that Jammu and Kashmir shall be an integral part of India. So if somebody asks you, India's presence in Jammu and Kashmir has no legal basis, then you should refer to this fact that Jammu and Kashmir's constitution itself has this provision that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India, and this is something which Jammu and Kashmir's own Constituent Assembly has formulated. Okay, and then there is something called, you might have heard, Article 35A, although it is an article of the Constitution, but it came through a presidential order. That means it was an executive order through which this article came into being. So it was a presidential order of 1954. So it is another very questionable provision. So what this article said was that the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly will have the power to define permanent residents of Jammu and Kashmir. That means to give benefits to them, to give benefits in terms of jobs, in terms of educational opportunities. So, and to exclude other people or people from other area to have land or jobs, or basically to secure the indigenous rights of the indigenous people or people belonging to Jammu and Kashmir. 35A explicitly gave the power to Jammu and Kashmir Assembly to define who are the permanent resident. You can actually draw an analogy to the idea of Clause 6 of a summit court. There also there's this idea of protecting the indigenous people through legal, administrative, constitutional safeguards. So similar intention is expressed through Article 35A. Okay, it was there in under Presidential Order 1954. So having discussed all these historical developments, let us look into the ground situation of Jammu and Kashmir in 1947. So as I referred to earlier, on 26th October 1947, we saw what? What did we see? We saw the signing of the instrument of accession. So instrument of accession was signed on this day. Now, having gone to the United Nations suggested that a plebiscite should be conducted. That means all the people of Jammu and Kashmir should decide whether they were willing to stay with India, or they are willing to exercise any other option. But our claim is that, and it is a very legitimate claim, that the ground situation has changed after the illegal occupation by Pakistan. So the 1947 scenario is not there. So illegal occupation of Pakistan has actually changed the ground situation. So it is not possible. This is our first argument, that why plebiscite is not possible at this moment. And secondly, we argue that we have already conducted election to the, as I referred to before, the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly. The Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly was elected in 1951 through a popular vote. So what is the need? That itself shows that they want to be part of India. So what is the need for a new plebiscite, right? That was a popular support or popular vote for being part of India. Okay. And the third fact is that there was participation, as I said, in 1948. The Maharaja of Kashmir, that is Hari Singh, he announced the formation of interim popular government under Sheikh Abdullah as Prime Minister. And Sheikh Abdullah, along with certain members of that interim government, participated in the Constituent Assembly of India, which led to the formation of Article 370. And Article 370 defined the relationship between the state and Indian Union. State means here I am referring to Jammu and Kashmir. So the fact that it had a different relationship, as I have referred to earlier, in Indian scheme of things, our federalism is asymmetrical. That means all the states have the relation is quite different for different states. Okay, so here also it shows the fact that Kashmir's relationship with India is somewhat different from, say, UP or Bihar. So that fact is also acknowledged, and the fact that the creation of this 370 is the result of participation of popular representative from Jammu and Kashmir. So that legitimizes India's claim that Jammu and Kashmir, or India's claim that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of the Union of India. It has been acknowledged by the Assembly itself, as I referred to you earlier. So now, 370 defines the relation. So still, when 370 was removed, many argue that it essentially snaps the constitutional relation that the state of Jammu and Kashmir had with Indian Union. But again, there are debate counter views to this idea. For that, we have to look into the details of Article 370, which we will do in our next class. Thank you.